masyarakat Indonesia berhak untuk mendapat kualitas hidup yang sama. Dengan 56% penduduk berada di satu pulau, 44% penduduk lainnya memiliki keterbatasan akses. Kita percaya bahwa akses untuk meningkatkan diri harus merata. Dari kesenjangan ini, Kumpul hadir dengan visi untuk memberikan akses yang lebih merata untuk pemberdayaan kewirausahaan di seluruh Indonesia. Dengan jejaring penggerak ekosistem yang luas, kami memiliki program-program inovatif yang bisa meningkatkan skill dan network untuk mendukung entrepreneurs, yang didistribusikan melalui lebih dari 70 hubs dan community partners kami yang tersebar di puluhan kota di Indonesia.
Kumpul telah mengedukasi kami untuk menjadi ekosistem builder yang terbaik, serta exposure dan akses ke program-program nasional.
Lebih dari 1.200 startup dan 400 kesempatan kerja telah terbentuk melalui program-program Kumpul, sebagai bukti nyata kami dalam pemberdayaan ekosistem kewirausahaan.
Helping us meeting the right mentors, the right network, and the right activities or programs. So thank you Kumpul and hoping to join your next programs and activities.
Tidak hanya berhenti di situ, Kumpul juga turut membantu para talenta dan pelaku bisnis untuk semakin meningkatkan kualitas mereka melalui jaringan mentor kami.
Partnering with Kumpul is one of the most effective ways for VC to be directly connected with the local startup ecosystem.
Kumpul yakin, bersama kita bisa memberikan impact lebih besar bagi entrepreneurs dan menjadikan Indonesia yang lebih berdaya.
Efficiency, cost, productivity. Business as usual has always been about turning a profit. If you stop to think about it, what more is there? The universe, nature, life, civilization as we know it is about the search for something greater than ourselves. Huawei Cloud is innovating technologies to make the world more inclusive. The cloud, AI, 5G are building a fully connected, intelligent world. They do more than drive digital transformation. It's a new paradigm for innovation. Imagine, if you can, what amazing secrets await when we unlock the secrets of the universe. What cosmic answers will we learn? AI can help preserve in the rainforest by identifying the sounds of gunshots or the sounds of illegal logging, protecting the most precious sounds, birds and trees, for generations to come. In cities around the world, we can collect traffic data and analyze it to improve transportation and bring order to a chaotic world. Even reporting the weather can be improved with AI. With more accurate forecasts and timely alerts, we'll travel safer and get home to our loved ones. Also, so many delicious flavors, chili, herbs, and spices automatically selected to improve flavor, quality, and nutrition. Delightful flavor explosions to dazzle our taste buds. A cloud for everyone, unleashing the power of innovation, making every day better. A cloud for pervasive intelligence and a better future. Huawei Cloud. Grow with intelligence.
Alright, good afternoon and welcome to InConnect, an industry insight session presented by Kumpul. My name is Risa and I'll be your host for today. Thank you for joining us in this special occasion. Let me know where you guys are coming from in the chat box, please. I would also like to give a special thanks to Huawei for supporting in the fourth InConnect program. So previously, we have conducted 3 InConnect sessions, inviting experts from agriculture, sustainability, and digital customer sectors. In today's InConnect, we'll have a closer look into fintech and logistics sector through a panel discussion with the topic of leveraging fintech to drive supply chain innovation. We hope that you will receive new insights around those sector potential collaboration with industry experts to drive more impact in the industry. Throughout the session, we'll be having a panel discussion between the industry experts around fintech and logistics sector, following by the launching of our upcoming program. So, stay tuned. Now, before we begin, I would like to invite Amalia Aininur as our Vice President of Ecosystem at Kumpul to give us an opening remark. So, to Amalia, the time is yours.
Thank you, Rizkia. So how's everyone today? I hope that all of us are in a good condition today. So my name is Amel. I'm the VP of Ecosystem in Kumpul. It's really nice to be here today, and I want to welcome all of you in this InConnect session talking about fintech to drive supply chain innovations. So first of all, I want to say thank you to all the speakers and partners that support this program, which is we have invited super inspiring speakers. We have Mr. Matthew from Super, we have Mr. Dickie from Investree, Mr. RJ from Monks Hill Ventures, and also our moderator, Ms. Natashia from Prasetia Dwidharma. Thank you so much for joining us today. And also I want to say thank you as well and good luck for all the startups and corporations that will join our speed dating after this panel discussion. So before we start, allow me to introduce a little bit about Kumpul and this program, this InConnect program. So actually we started as a co-working space, which is like a long time ago, 4 to 5 years ago. And but because of that, we got connected to a lot of ecosystem players, especially since our CEO is the president of Co-working Indonesia. And then through that, we then started to find some challenges, a gap, if I can say, in the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Indonesia. Hence, we shift our focus. So we believe in order to overcome these challenges, we need more people, we need more entities working together to bring more opportunities, show many different perspectives, and change the culture. After that, then we started to build partnership with both national or international organizations. So we engage government, both from Indonesia or outside Indonesia. We engage corporations, universities, and then founders, mentors, community leaders, and also global players in general. And we try to connect them with one another to provide better visibility for startups to then they can grow and scale their business. So now, if I can say, we are more towards like helping entrepreneurs, both international and local startups, to then expand and grow their business through our program, our curriculums, and also our extensive networks. So with that goal in mind, we created this program series, which we call it InConnect, where it serves as a bridge to, so that we can bridge the needs of the industry or corporations to the innovations that our startups can offer. So on each InConnect series, and we're covering a specific industry, inviting key players within the industry to share their insights and then get connected with each other. So until now, as mentioned by Rizkia before, we have conducted 4 InConnect series, including this one, and we have connected for more than 20 startups to potential partners from this program alone, in which most of them are having follow-up, meeting and partnership after the event. So I hope that after this InConnect event, we all can go back with new insights, new perspective about the trends and how the industry has evolved through global challenges by leveraging financial technology to drive supply chain innovations. Also, for all the selected startup to make the best of the speed dating that you're going to have later on. So good luck, and then I hope you can enjoy the sessions today. So thank you very much. I think that's all for me. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you again in our next program. I'll give it back to Rizkia. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Amalia, for your warm opening. So now, without further ado, let's tune into our panel topic for today, leveraging fintech to drive supply chain innovation. Therefore, I would like to invite our moderator for today, Maria Natashia, as the investment manager at Prasetia Dwidharma. So currently, Natashia focuses on investment opportunities in internet companies in Southeast Asia, as well as working together with 60 plus portfolio of internet company to grow. Prior to work with a local investment, she has also experienced working with an international fund focusing in China and CIA that gave her a bit of insight from China market. So prior to the investment, she has the overall experience in tech ecosystem by working with startup as well as being the incubator and co-working space industry. So to Natashia, the stage is all yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Risha. Good afternoon for everyone, and thank you once again for joining us today. Like Risa mentioned before, I'm Natashia, and I'll be your moderator for the next 45 minutes. So today, it's so interesting that we're going to have a panel discussion with 3 incredible speakers, which will discuss about leveraging financial technology to drive supply chain innovation. So let me, hold on. So we're having 3 amazing speakers today. Please allow me to introduce each one of them. The first one is Mr. Dickie Widjaja, as CIO of Investree. With more than 20 years experience working in IT industry, Dickie has been pushed towards embracing new challenges, finding and determining technological strategy and solutions in running a business, relying on his expertise in maximizing the role of technology and creating markets. Dickie joined Investree to help add sophistication to financing activities in Indonesia and to constantly make them simpler and easier to engage. Let's join me to welcome Mr. Dickie on stage. Good afternoon, Mr. Dickie. Thank you for being being with us today.
Good afternoon, Natasha. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And now the next one is that Mr. Matthew Adrian Tirtamarta, the CEO Office and Head of Finance of Super. As CEO's representative, Matthew works closely with every department in framing strategic business opportunities, finding important problems, seeking improvements, and recommendation in order of each of the divisions to be fully optimized. As Head of Finance, Matthew is responsible for financial analysis, investment, fundraising, and financial reporting and recommendations to management and investors. Let's join me to welcome Mr. Matthew to the stage.
Hi, Natasha. Thank you so much, Kumpul, for inviting me here. It's an honor.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you so much for being with us today. Last but not least, we're having Mr. RJ Balmater as Investment Associate of Mongsil Ventures. RJ is an investment associate at Mongsil Ventures, a leading early-stage tech venture capital firm in Southeast Asia. He is based in Indonesia and is responsible for deal sourcing, due diligence, investment analysis, and research. He covers both Indonesia and Philippine markets, and RJ was previously a consultant at Balmater Consulting Company, where he led a small team to advise family-owned SMEs in Indonesia on good governance practices and fundraising for expansion plans. Let's let us welcome Mr. RJ Balmater to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Natasha. Hi, everyone. Thanks.
Hi.
Very humbled to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today. So without further ado, let's jump into our panelist session. Again, let me mention the topic so that everyone can be alarmed. And if you have any questions, you can start to think about it and share with us as well. It's about leveraging fintech to drive supply chain innovation. So the first question to all speakers here is that reflecting to different industries that you are in right now, how's your industry have changed in the past 2 years? Maybe I'll start with Mr. Dickie first.
Thanks, Natasha. I think that's a very interesting question. As you know, fintech is relatively new if compared with bigger companies. For us, for Investree itself, we're in the peer-to-peer lending industry. We're one of the first few to start, and we started back in 2016. So it's relatively young. We just turned 5 years old, and you can see that there's a change, right? In the beginning, the peer-to-peer itself, we have a lot of challenge, both operational as well as reputational, in terms of explaining the business model itself. People don't understand why people who don't know them would lend them money. So that was a kind of a growing pains that we had to go through. And the operational side is more on the technological challenge, explaining to potential partners, simple things like banks, right? We don't collect the funds that we help gather for our borrowers. We actually channel it through banks, and simple things like opening bank account can be very tough, especially when you're a new industry. But you see that with the support from our regulator as well, from OJK, we see that everybody starting to know. And there was a point in time, I think in 2018, 2019, where there's a boom, and there was we call it the hype cycle, so to speak, where I think at the top, the most, there was close to 200 peer-to-peer lending companies. Now it's registered, it's about 120 registered with OJK. So now it's more on the challenge is more on fighting the illegal ones. As you see, when there's something good, then you will always attract both the good actors and the bad actors. And we see, especially lately, 2 years ago, a lot of bad actors come in. They give loans, and then they do some unsavory acts in collection, or they grab your data and do things that you're not supposed to with the data. And so, yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride from explaining about our industry. We see improvement in around our partners industry as well, where the technology is improving. So things are moving much faster, where previously it might take us up to 2 or 3 weeks to disburse a loan. Now the fastest can be done within 3 days. But with that, the challenge is new now. There are a lot of bad actors coming in as well, illegal. So we, as the legal players, we have to combat that thing. That's for a start. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dickie. So it's quite interesting that a lot of things can happen in 2 years. And then also with the changes, there will be another challenge that we have to tackle. Let's get deep dive into it a little bit later. Let's hear from Matthew.
All right. So about the prospect of the industry, right, in the next 2 until 5 years, I think for the supply chain part for the industry, for example, in super, I think the first problem, for example, like the lack of infrastructure with the will be diminishing thanks to the government projects. I remember that the supply chain cost is getting more efficient in East Java. When the toll road from Surabaya to Kediri was built, and for the prices of the fintech is very can make the supply chain cost will be more efficient. So it will take time for the people to learn and adapt from our perspective in super, because many of our agents, for example, or for our customers don't even have bank accounts. Once they learn, they will learn more about like cashless payment, for example. Later on, with the fast of the payment services, for example, if we collaborate with the fintech, the spending turnover can be very fast So supply chain can be very efficient, and also something like P2P lending or pay later services will create an increasing spending behavior. So the turnover will also increase. So we believe that having a fintech presence in tier 2 and tier 3 cities can be very helpful with the presence of financial services. So I think that's my opinion. Thank you, Natashia.
Interesting. So basically, like a lot of positive things happening in supply chain industry as well, right? All right. Last but not least, RJ, like, do you have anything to say? Like, what do you see as changing in the past 2 years, perhaps, if you have any, like more experience on the logistics side, supply chain side, and also the fintech side? What do you see around these 2 years?
Sure. I think we've been around since 2014, and we've been in Indonesia since 2015, setting up our offices here and also investing here. I, for one, started about 4 years ago, and that's when I actually met Miss Natashia here. And there's been a lot of changes, specifically in Indonesia, especially in all these sectors. But I did want to kind of focus on VC, since both of these awesome panelists are from the industry. I do also want to share a little bit about the VC culture and how it has changed in the past couple of years as well. So for, in the past 4 years when I first started out, it was only about, 40 to 50 investors in the region, specifically in Indonesia, looking at early stage investments in startups. Now, my latest count is over 120, investors, whether coming from regional, international, local, conglomerate, angels, and many more. So I think this growth has also kind of been related to the growth of industries in all of these sectors, right? The potential for Indonesia is massive for each of these sectors, whether it's fintech, logistics, and supply chain. There's a lot of things to be fixed, and I think technology is there to help more than to hurt. And of course, with collaborations from government, corporates, and technology, it can be a lot better in the future. Thank you.
Sounds a lot of positivity here. So, okay, we'll deep dive on that a little bit later. The next question is basically for Matthew. So Super has been giving access to mom and pop stores to purchase more affordable groceries. Can you share with us what are still the biggest challenges with the supply chain today, given like there are a lot of definitely good growth like the past 2 years, but if you have any, do you still have any specific challenges, please do share with us. What is that?
Okay, thank you, Natashia. So, yes, we have been giving access for mom and pop store to purchase more affordable groceries, but not only for them, but also for end consumers through our model, which is like our model is more of B2A to B or C. So the A1 is the agent or resellers. But as for the challenges that remain today, like I said before, the big problem remains in the lack of infrastructure. So if you travel to tier 2 or tier 3 or even rural areas, you are able to see that the road is made of soil, not concrete or even rocks. This explains the inadequate infrastructure. When I was at the VC also, when I did research about supply chain in East Java, Central and West Java, and even a little for Sulawesi cities. So I see that in the inadequate infrastructure remains a big problem, but it's developing. Secondly, I would say the problem within for example, like in in the FMCG market is like the fragmented market. So let me elaborate on that. So based on our experience, each supplier and principal has their own interests, right? For example, within the same product category, brand A focuses more on product diversification sales. So they ask Super to help them distribute only product X or Y. But for example, there's also called brand B that focus more on geographical expansion regardless of product diversification. But in the end, it depends on the demand, right? Sometimes our customer, based on our data analysis, want product Z of the brand A, not the product X or Y. But brand A focuses more on the X or Y, but that does not suit with the demand. So for us, like this still remains a challenge, but we have like the geographical expansion focused supplier that we focus more. It's much easier for us, Natashia. So I would say that the still remaining problems is the lack of infrastructure, and then the fragmented market of the suppliers, that it's hard for them to understand if they don't have the data. Thank you.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. So if looking at the supply chain perspective, though, like there a lot of infrastructure has been built, but still, like the lack of data and then the maturity of that infrastructure itself is still coming as the biggest challenge today, especially for the FMCG and supply chain industry. Now, I want to ask Mr. Dickie, in the fintech case, especially since you mentioned that it used to be like three weeks for approval, and then now it can be like less than maybe 3 days. So definitely a lot of improvement there. But is that something that is only happening in tier 1 cities, or like is still any challenges in tier 2, tier 3 cities in Indonesia? So like, what's your perspective? Is there still any challenges like what Matthew just said, especially in penetrating tier 2, tier 3 cities? Just want to get a sense from you, like what is it like in the fintech industry?
Yeah. Thanks, Natashia. So basically, the way we see it, right? Fintech companies such as Investree, and we are in a fintech association in Indonesia as well. All of us are trying to help the government kind of increase the financial inclusion, right? Now, to get the financial inclusion number to go up, it's basically you have the infrastructure challenge, which is I think Matthew already mentioned a little bit, but people tends to forget, right? Just the fact that there's a BTS in other country or in other tier 2 or tier 3 cities, or even internet connection, doesn't mean that the people living there can immediately use it. Kalau in Indonesian, you have this word gaptek, right? And you raise a very good point, where previously it could be up to 3 weeks, and now it's much faster. The reason it improves is because we managed to improve the asymmetry of data. So in let's say in fintech, right, in peer-to-peer lending, we are basically giving loans based on other people's money. So it is our responsibility to manage that loan to ensure that the money will come back. And how do we do that? By doing credit scoring, by doing certain good collection practices, or even earlier, like good preventive moves. Now, in order to do credit scoring, you need data. Right now, in the beginning, there's an asymmetry of data. Some people have a lot of data, some don't. Now, why do fintech now is working a lot with supply chain or ecosystem? At the end of the day, it's about data. By working with partners, we can judge better. We can score the potential borrowers better. Now, having said that, the 3 days, it's still in tier 1 and to a certain extent some tier 2 cities, but it's not necessarily it's just on the big cities, or there's no chance for tier 2 and tier 3. It's not about the city itself, but it's about the data that we can gain from working with an ecosystem. So right now, the 3 days, it's because we work with an ecosystem. And frankly speaking, what they're doing is they're actually giving loans to ladies. Basically, it's a kind of like a Grameen Bank model. So they're giving out loans for ladies in the rural areas. So that is tier 2 or tier 3 cities. So it's not necessarily the size of the city itself, but the challenge is, how do we glean more insight? How can we learn more about these potential borrowers? And fintech cannot go to all these cities. As much as we say, fintech, financial technology, of course, we're a technology company. People like to make it so easy. It's like, okay, then you can use technology and then you can just deploy it to anywhere, and people can use it. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to have partners that handhold them in wherever they are. So to go back to my earlier example, the ladies one, sorry, our partner actually has someone that teach the ladies on how to use the mobile phone, on how to apply. These are the things that, unfortunately, some people in the tech industry, we tend to take for granted, I think. So it's not so much about the size of the city, but I think it's about the data. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing, Mr. Dickie. I think I agree with you that it's not only about the infrastructure, but also like the mentality, the education level, and like tech savviness. I think it also combines to the challenges itself. So I think it's interesting to see what's the perspective from the investor point of view, RJ. With like this a lot of challenge, but at the same time we understand that there is like this huge opportunities in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Like as an investor, like how do you see the potential of this tier 2, tier 3 cities for fintech and logistic industry?
Great question. I want to put an earlier point from Dickie and also Matthew. The new demand created by smartphone penetration is massive, right? Now everybody has access to the worldwide information, and now they want things that are not from Jakarta. Maybe they want things from Jakarta. So everybody now is the same in terms of demand. So that creates a huge problem for brands, for example, because now they have to figure out, how do I send this product that I usually sell in Jakarta to Sleman, to Jambi, these tier 2, tier 3 cities that are really far away. And as everyone mentioned, very poor infrastructure. So the potential is massive. For example, in tier 2 to tier 4 cities, the market size that we calculated is around 40 to 50 billion US dollars. Logistics market in Indonesia alone as a whole is almost $100 billion. That's $150 billion potential in terms of dollar value. So if you can just get 1%, 10% of that from multiple companies, it makes for a really good portfolio and also helps create awareness, but also helps the people living in tier 2, tier 4 cities get what they want in terms of the products that they want when it comes to FMCG products, electronics, and food. We recently invested in a company called Dagangan, which is actually similar to Super. And what they do essentially is allow business owners, warung owners in tier 3, tier 4 cities access to all of these different types of goods that are not readily available in their grossier that's next to them. Or actually, back to that point, most of the grossiers around these areas are actually very far away. So they also solve the logistics problem, because instead of closing your shop for one day, losing business for one day, you turn on an app, use the app, and pay through the app, and have your goods delivered directly to your door. So we do, as a VC, and also a lot of other investors, see a massive potential for both fintech and logistics to work with supply chain partners within these tier 2 to tier 4 cities. So to answer your question in a short way, yes, we do see a massive potential.
Sounds good. Since like Mr. Dickie earlier mentioned about there's definitely a potential collaboration between fintech, so that it's helping them out to score better and then to serve tier 2, tier 3 cities better. Investree or the fintech player have to sort of like be able to open their eyes and then see like what's the ecosystem around them, and how do they can like create some sort of like collaboration between them, so that it completes the data set. And then also RJ also mentioned the same thing, that there's definitely like a high relevancy between supply chain industry and fintech industry. I'd like to ask to Matthew, like, what do you see, or how does supply chain can be more efficient in your way, or by collaborating with fintech industry from your perspective? Like, how do you see it?
Thanks, Natashia. Very good question. So collaborating with fintech industry, for example, I put it into two sides. For example, the first side is the payment industry. The second one is the P2P lending or the loan services industry. So for the payment industry, for us, it will take time for the people to learn and adapt, and the financial literacy is improving. But still, because many of them don't have even like bank accounts based on our experience in the tier 3 and tier 4 cities, but we have the data. So once we will learn about the data, we know about their spending behavior, right? So we can offer them like the services like cashless with certain discounts, for example, and it enables them to have a bank account and for the benefits, and once also with the fast of the payment services, so they get the money like fast, right? Instead of a COD or cash on delivery, the spending turnover can be much faster for our agents, so the supply chain can be efficient. And another example for the second industry is like the P2P lending or the pay later services. It will create an increasing spending behavior. So the turnover will also increase. Many stakeholders like mom and pop stores have high accounts receivables from their customers. So it's like a 5 until 10 days, like 5 until 10 days accounts receivable. So they might need financial services, right? Because their cash flow is kind of hard to scale. So we know that also from our end consumer side, for example, we know the minimum wage of the tier 2 and tier 3 cities are much lower than tier 1. So it's imbalanced. So having financial services, especially from fintech, can be very helpful for us in tier 2 and tier 3 and rural areas. So that's how I answer it. Thank you, Natashia.
All right, interesting. I think you, so digging up a little bit before I move to the other speaker, you mentioned earlier about high costs can still be a problem. Other than, so like being like that high cost is the problem, is there anything that you've done to basically help that by bridging up with fintech, or like what is like the immediate like action items that probably like pop in your head right now because like of this conversation, like the fintech supply chain, like the collaboration side of it, so that we can sort of like lower down the cost? Is that any angle that you see, perhaps?
Okay, so partnering with fintech will be very helpful. But from our perspective, another perspective is that building up density is also important, or having a group buying for cheaper products with strong unit economics for super. So since smartphone penetration is growing, but digital literacy needs some time to improve, social commerce is one of the effective way to lower the supply chain's costs. So by aggregating the orders of the customers, so that when we send all the categories in one or two go, the cost will be very efficient. So instead of just one supplier, for example, like principal A, B, or C, they just send their own products that consist only a certain percentage of the people's wallet share, the customer's wallet share. So building up density is one of the most important thing to reduce the high cost that occurs, that's still occurring in the tier 3 cities and rural areas. So and partnering with fintech, like I said before, it boosts up the spending behavior. So the cost also very efficient for us. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I actually missed that density. Yeah, like being in the supply chain industry, I fully agree with you that definitely density is one of the things that we might need to pay attention more, so that we can sort of like lower down the cost, and then probably like, yeah, because like everything is a little bit more efficient, right? So I completely agree with you. Thank you for sharing that perspective, which I actually forgot about that. I'll go with Mr. Dickie next. With like, so Matt, you have shared a little bit about like what are some of the activities that that they are doing to sort of like tackle all the challenges. I noticed that you also shared a little bit about like working together with ecosystem players so that you can reach out to tier 2, tier 3 cities better. Is there anything else that you can share with us, like some of the tips or maybe some of the action items that you've done to basically reach out to this tier 2, tier 3 cities population?
Okay, thanks, Natashia. So I think in an ideal world, we want to be able to immediately help the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. And we erase the unbanked population, and the financial inclusion statistic goes up. But I think that will take time. And what I will try to tell everyone is like, I see in the chat a lot of people says you got this. I think, well, let's change it and to say we got this. It takes everyone to help out, and there is a process. There is a process that every single company have to go through, and the industry will improve as we go forward. Right now, I think while there are certain players that are attacking or helping the unbanked, but there's also the underbanked, or what we call the underserved. So they might have bank accounts, but people tend to forget banks goes both ways, right? The fund goes to the bank goes gives to the user as well in terms of loan. So there are a lot of people who actually have bank accounts, but they haven't been able to enjoy getting loans from banks. So that's what a lot of peer-to-peer is handling right now. Why? Because it's still we are still in early stages. While it's still it's already 5 years, but I think we're still in early stages. We're still trying to gather data to create kind of a symmetry of data. So as peer-to-peer becomes better in doing credit scoring, giving loans, then we can increase our business, and we can go to smaller cities, so to speak, or even to people that we don't have enough data about. Now, how do we work with supply chain? I think some of the companies that's been mentioned here, RJ mentioned some companies. We actually work with them. Why? For us, it's simple. For the risk of sounding like Uncle Scrooge, cash is king. Right? People tend to forget that in business, cash flow is king. Cash is the blood of the business. You can have the most fantastic revenue, but if the cash is not in your bank account, then there's always a risk of going bankrupt. Now, we can provide the cash to help with the business, or we help with the mom and pop store, or help with our borrowers, but we still need data. And there are so many things that probably they need help with. I think Matt brought up a very good example, which is group buying, right? So the reason we work with them is that companies such as like Super or Dagangan or other companies, their focus is how to help these businesses grow, this ultra, micro, or even SME grow. We finance that movement. So the way we see it is like, look, Matt drives the movement, we finance the movement, and we work together with these partners. Why? Because these partners know what's going on. We can use what their knowledge, their insight that they can share with us. Then we can judge, okay, this kind of movement there is a certain risk to it, and we need to find lenders who are willing to take on that risk. So that's where we help out with these supply chain companies. At the end of the day, the tip of the spears are these guys, right? The Super, the Dagangan. They're the ones helping the mom and pop store on the ground. We're just making sure that the lights are on. That's it.
All right, interesting. Yeah, I guess like whatever Mr. Dickie said today is not only applicable for the tier 2, tier 3 cities SMEs, but also for all of the audiences who are maybe like doing startups. Definitely like a lot of wisdom there. So be aware that like cash is king, and then you can always go to fintech players to basically keep your lights on. So definitely like a lot of wisdom there. And let's moving on to RJ, since like we have like a lot of audiences, we'll do speed dating after this session. So maybe if you can share a little bit as well, what are some of the things that you as the investor assess? It can be like logistic, it can be fintech, or it can be anything general. Maybe you can share with us and share some tips with the audiences.
Sure. I think the most important thing is what Pak Dickie said about cash is king. So please keep track of your cash and make sure you have a long runway so that everyone is happy. But most importantly, right, when we're assessing a startup, and this is primarily for the startup people within the audience, it's more about the founders at the early stage. How do you create value? What's your experience? What is your background? I think that's the most important part. But if we want to drill down on some of the metrics that we kind of look into, let's talk about logistics. Let's talk about kind of the supply chain, the super model as well. And I think as a typical kind of marketplace, you're selling goods, GMV is definitely number one, just to make sure that that's growing in general. However, you also want to kind of pay attention to the unit economics. Once you start minusing the cost of receiving that inventory, the marketing, the salespeople maybe use agents. Make sure those are also positive as well. For example, the most likely case is you sell goods and that's 100% of your revenue. Then you've bought those goods and you take it on inventory, so those are probably 80%. Then you add on logistics costs, maybe like a small tricycle or a bike that goes around the villages in tier 2, tier 3 cities. That's probably another 10%. And then, of course, there's also marketing and financing, which you also have to take into a consideration. So you always want to break these down. We call this contribution margin. And I know I'm going a little bit technical for a very broad conversation, but I just want to share with you, share with everybody on the platform and also on YouTube, that this is also very important to keep track of. You want to make sure that you are making money. A startup is a great idea, a creative idea, but what's most important, of course, is that you're also a business. You don't forget that you're also a business. And by having those positive unit economics, you'll actually have a great business moving forward in the long term. So don't try to spend money just so you can have negative margins. Try to make it as quickly as possible to positive. Now moving to fintech side, it's a whole different ballgame because you are getting money from interest. So you can call that interest income. That is your revenue. But one most important metric, other than, of course, positive unit economics from your OPEX and everything else, and also of your cost of funding, what's most important for fintech is NPL. You want to make sure it's a very reasonable amount because it just shows you that you're giving the loans to the right people, whether it's a business, whether it's a consumer, or whether it's a warung owner or a grosir. You want to make sure that these are all very positive and it's as small as possible. So you have to make either build your own credit risk assessment or use someone else's. But most importantly, you have to keep track of these metrics moving forward, and these are not static numbers. You have to show improvements over the course of your investment or even the course of the year. And this is what a good startup looks like. Like, you're always conscious about numbers because you also are a business at the end of the day. And I guess those are my quick tips for startups in the call.
Thank you so much, RJ. So yeah, I think it's important that everyone pay attention to positive unit economics, positive in terms of showing growth as well. So there are a lot of positivity today here. So just making sure that you can always share that positivity towards your aura, your attitudes, and then your numbers as well. So yeah, I think it's been quite positive so far as well. So for one last closing questions for all speakers, I'll start with Matthew. What would be your expectation for your industry to look like in the next 3 to 5 years, especially in Indonesia?
Okay, thank you, Natashia. So I would say in the next 3 to 5 years, the industry prospect is going to be very bright. So in the next 3 to 5 years, I think the first problem, like the lack of infrastructure, will be less stressful thanks to the government's project. So help from Surabaya to Kediri, for example, the toll road really helped us to provide the supply chain efficiency for the mom and pop stores and also for the end users. And also, while the digital literacy and financial inclusion will be growing and increasing access to the financial services will provide prosperity to the industry and the country, because majority of Indonesia GDP came from tier 2 and tier 3 and rural areas, especially within the consumption industry. So not only startups like Super Dagangan or other FMCG supply chain startups that did it, but also agriculture, for example. So we are very positive about the future of the supply chain industry that's going to bring balance in tier 2, tier 3, and rural areas. So it's very bright for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matthew, for sharing. Maybe I'd like to hear from Mas Dickie as well. So the question is that what would be your expectation for your industry to look like in the next 3 to 5 years, especially in Indonesia?
Okay, I think in terms of industry itself, I do see that you will get to see the trickle-down effect. There's no denying right now, even after 5 years, majority of loans that's been dispersed to by the peer-to-peer, it's mostly in Java, so some in Sumatra, some in the eastern side. But that's because, like I said, that's the easiest and the safest for us right now. But as the competition gets hotter and as the infrastructure gets better, and as more ecosystem player, such as Super or Dagan, get better and get bigger in other tier 2, 3, and 4 cities, then you will start seeing the peer-to-peer also trickling down to that market. Because at the end of the day, we can't go where there is no data. We can get the data ourselves, or I think the best way has always been work with those who knows the area, who knows the ecosystem, whose main focus is to grow these players, and we just come in and support them with the funds that's needed, whether by them or by the ecosystem that they're supporting. So you will start seeing trickle down effect. At the end of the day, look, I don't think a peer-to-peer is an industry. As an industry, we won't grow big unless our partner ecosystem, our partner industry grow big as well. So we grow together here. As they grow, we grow. As we grow, they will also grow. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Mas Dickie. Last but not least, RJ, maybe you can also share, like what do you think about the industry in the next 3 to 5 years, especially in Indonesia?
Definitely. Well, I think what Pak Dickie and also what Matthew mentioned is definitely spot on. I share this same sentiment as them. I believe collaboration moving forward is the key to drive innovation and for the success of startups to grow within Indonesia. I think most important, I also want to give a shout out to the government. I think they have identified a lot of the problems within logistics and also a supply chain specifically, and they're also working to support that with their annual budget as well. Just a quick example, I know this is a closing statement, but for the fishing industry, frozen fish, we actually produce twice the amount of capacity we have for storage. And the government has identified this gap in the market. And so what they have done is actually spend $30 million to help build facilities and also infrastructure to make sure that there's no theft, loss within this industry, because basically we're losing 40% of our fish that we catch. And that doesn't make any sense. So I also want to give a good shout out to a lot of conglomerates, support teams like Kumpul, for example, who are also bringing awareness to all of these problems and also sharing and also connecting a lot of people within the industry. So for the next 3 to 5 years, I believe Indonesia is in great hands to move forward and prosper. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, RJ, for sharing. So I'd like to give thanks for Mr. Dickie, Mr. Matthew, and Mr. RJ once again for sharing a lot of insights and then like doing all those discussions. I guess like the conclusion from this conversation today is that there's definitely a huge potential in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. But I guess like to really enter that market, there are definitely a lot of challenges as well, but the challenges can be overcome with a lot of collaboration between industries and between players, so that if you're building a startups nowadays, I think it is important for you to see, to see like the business more on the ecosystem, like also see the ecosystem, I would say, because like it might help you to sort of like expand your business to somewhere that you might never imagine before, like Mr. Dickie and Matt and RJ says, because like there's this very huge opportunity there, but you definitely need to do like a lot of collaboration to tackle the market, because the market is just so huge and then there's lack of data and infrastructure. So make sure that you grab that opportunity. There's this gap of infrastructure, there's this gap of data. So if you haven't really had anything to do, maybe you can try to look at it. But if you're doing something, maybe like expanding to tier 2, tier 3 cities together with our fellow startup founders from different industries might be interesting as well. I think that's it for today. Thank you everyone for tuning in until the end of the session. Thank you once again for our inspiring speakers today, Mr. Dickie, Mr. Matthew, and Mr. RJ. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for your time. I'm Natashia. I think I'm signing out. Till we meet again, I'll give the stage back to Risha.
All right, thank you so much, Maria Natashia, as our moderator today, and also to our amazing panelists, Mr. Matthew, Mr. Dickie, Widjaja, and Mr. RJ Balmater for being with us today. What an insightful discussion, yes. So I hope all of us that are joining us today can bring few key takeaways and apply it on your business. Now, moving on to the next session is the kick-off of our upcoming program. We've been working on it for quite a while now, and therefore I would like to invite our CEO and co-founder of Kumpul, Mrs. Fei Wongso, to share the good news with all of you. So, to Mrs. Fei Wongso, the time and stage is all yours.
So I'm Fei Wongso, the CEO and co-founder of Kumpul, and today I'm going to walk through the process of the launching of Kumpul Accelerator. I'd like to ask the team to show some deck for me. So just to repeat what Amel actually already mentioned at the beginning of InConnect, that at the beginning, Kumpul really tried to see how we can build ecosystem, how we can actually help entrepreneurs and aspiring founders with like really little resources. At that time, we started as co-working business. But then throughout the years, we saw that it's actually a very effective platform to connect and grow entrepreneurs, but then we need really good quality programs. So then Kumpul evolved, starting already in 2018, 2019. We pulled in a lot of quality programs for entrepreneurs all over Indonesia. We are actually present in more than 30 cities through our strategic and local partners and hubs. And then through them, we execute programs that normally only being accessible by people in the big cities or in developed countries. Now that we are identifying, we have the pre-startups, the early stage startups programs. We see that actually there's this missing middle. In the next slides, we see that across Indonesia, we've run all of these programs, and then this is actually the funneling. Can we have the next slide? So most of this is basically working with the community and the hubs. And then these are the funnelings. And then we work together also with industry players, government sectors, and then we see to actually escalate the growth of the entrepreneurs, we need to follow through the startup journey. We need to follow through the entrepreneurial journey, and then provide the right program in each phases. And then the next one, next slide, please. We feel that the missing middle I mentioned before, throughout all this funneling, and then we have all the early stage startups. There are startups who are not at the early stage anymore, but they're not really big yet. You know, they need that push factor to actually really channel their potentials, to actually really channel the growth. So Kumpul Accelerator is answering that challenge. We will work mostly together with industry partners, and we focused mostly in this accelerator for the go-to market, for the partnerships, for the opportunity, for the revenues, increase the growth of these startups. And even the mentoring and even the local and global experts. And we can see in the next slide, please, that we've engaged quite a lot of partners. There are many who are still ongoing in ongoing communication with us to finalize the partnerships. These are the people who already finalized the partnership with us. So when we actually run the accelerator later, we will actually see more and more partners onboarding with us, because when we talk to people, actually a lot of our partners are very, very excited to see that there's these solutions, these programs, these opportunities for the Indonesian startups to actually working slowly to be a global player, working to tap into the big growth, the accelerations. And next one is just to close my remarks is that the role of Kumpul. Can we have the next slides? The role of Kumpul, currently we see ourselves as the ecosystem builder. We see ourselves as the super connector, as the platform to connect the startups, the talents, the industry, corporations, governments, and to identify the solutions, the problems, and then what we can actually do together to accelerate growth. So along the way, with all the changes with the pandemic, a lot of sector changes, a lot of opportunities happens, and we work together with all the elements of the ecosystem players to really build Indonesia and then put us on the global map. So I think that's all from me. I'll give the time back to Risha. Thank you.
Thank you also, Mrs. Paywon, for bringing in the good news. Now, let's hear a couple of remarks from our partners that also take part in supporting the programs and the startup.
Startups. My name is Derek Orchili. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Dana Indonesia. Please allow me to welcome you to the Kumpul X Accelerator program today. I thank you for your time and presence today. Let me share a bit about Dana and why we're being part of this program. Dana is a digital wallet that has the vision to help Indonesia become a digital society through financial inclusion. We also have a mission to work with a lot of the partners within this ecosystem, including the government, the channel partners, our merchant partners, and of course, our end users. Currently, Dana is serving about 80 million registered users. We also have an ecosystem of 300,000 plus merchants, of which 3,000 are online. And we also process about 5 million transactions per day. So we have been able to scale up within the past few years, and really that's thanks to the trust of everybody in the ecosystem. It's always been an open platform, an open ecosystem, where we partner with various parties who can help us achieve this vision. And throughout this program, Dana itself, we hope to be able to provide some guidance, some mentorship on how to build, scalable and secure products, and also grants to some of the startups that fit a certain criteria. So from all of you here, we're looking for, those brilliant, creative, innovative ideas. And I really hope that we get to work closer together throughout this program. And without further ado, and I guess taking too much of your time, again, welcome to this program. And I look forward to working with you all. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dana and Mr. Derek Rochili for the warm greeting to the startup. We can wait to get the program started. So now, as one of our program's partner, Huawei has given the opportunity to Kumpul X participating startup to their Spark programs. So let's take a sneak peek at it. What a great opportunity for the startup, and they will also be giving away 1,000 USD Huawei Clouds coupon for the selected Kumpul X participating startup. Wow, such a big amount of money, doesn't it? Now, so how do you think, guys? The Kumpul X program is interesting, doesn't it? With amazing but also cool program partners. So now, last but not least, let's hear a few words from our partner that will also participating in the program. We have Jason Loh as the CEO and founder of Peace Future. So before that, I would like to remind you, while waiting for the Mr. Jason Loh, would like to remind you that if you are interested in being part of our upcoming program, do sign up yourself and your startup in bit.ly/join-kumpulx, or you can also see it in the running text down below. All right, so I heard that Mr. Jason Loh is already here. So to Jason Loh as the CEO and founder of Peace Future, the stage is all yours.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason. It's a pleasure to be invited to speak in a campus event. All right, I'm here to introduce to you one of our programs that we are running right now in Asia. And with that, I will be sharing my screen and to show you some slides, and I'll be going through them quickly in the next couple of minutes. All right, so just let me now go through my screen, and I'll be sharing it shortly. All right, can you see my screen? I hope, sorry. Is this okay? Yeah, if this is okay, I'll start right now. Okay, I'm here to introduce to you about IP Hedge Startup Program, all right? And this is a very unique program that we are running in Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, Hong Kong, Japan, and now we are launching it in Indonesia. And this is basically a one-stop platform to help startups in your journey. Okay, I was told that the screen you guys can't see, just maybe some technical problem. Just let me do it again. Just 1 second. Okay, just give me 1 more minute because I think this is okay, maybe I got to use another way. Just 1 second. Okay. Yep, I think this is more Google friendly. So just now I was trying to share my PowerPoint. I guess you guys can see this right now. So let me restart again. All right, I'm Jason. I'm the CEO and founder of Peace Future, and we are very proud to bring to you IP Hatch program, which is something that we have created 4 years ago and is now going around Asia. It is a very unique platform that we have created to help bridges sustainable technologies from multinational companies to help to build world-class tech companies, right, to the use of the technologies. And since 2017, we have already created nearly 50 startups from 5 countries in 10 different sectors in the IP Hatch. And we are very, very happy to be here introducing to you IP Hatch. Basically, Asia has a lot of potential, especially Indonesia is a huge market. There's a lot of new innovation and digitization happening, and we are very excited to see how this wave is actually impacting and bring about new impact to the society and the economy of Indonesia. And what's it for startups when you join IP Hatch? All right, because it's a one-stop program whereby we will help you in your business expansion, where you will actually receive coaching, from professional mentors that we have in our network across different countries. And we also have a whole network of incubation programs that you can also tap on with the different governments and so forth. All right. And the technology portfolios that we are having is from the very renowned companies like Panasonic, Ricoh, Nokia, and many others. And finally, of course, what we can do is that we will help you also to move out of your home country to other countries of your wish, to expand your business, to find new VCs, to find new business opportunity to grow your revenue. All right. So what is IP Hatch in actual? Today is kind of the launch, and there will be a whole series of activities leading up to the program pitch if you participate together with us. All right. First of all, there will be thematic seminars, there will be workshops, there will be mentoring session. Then there will be even a hackathon kind of session we call IP Hackathon, where you'll be a 3-hour sessions. We will be coaching you, teaching you how to utilize technology to beef up your companies. All right. And all of this are all complimentary, and we welcome all to join. This is the timeline for IP Hatch. Today is kind of marking the launch of this program, of the activities that we'll be launching, and all the way until December is the application closing date. You are more than welcome to go to our website to have a look at the information. All right, and therefore, just go to our website for more information in the future, and keep maybe even sign up our so-called mailing list so that you can get updates along the way. Okay. And so what typically a startup will be getting after, say, for example, they become selected for the program, this is the journey, basically. Number one, you need to submit your application. If we don't get to know you, we'll never be able to do anything with you. And after that, if you have been shortlisted, you will be pitching to the judges of the different panels set up from different countries. And one of the award that you will walk away definitely will be the patents that come from the very renowned companies like Panasonic or Nokia. And then after that, you move on to form a working group together with Peace Future, whereby and our partners, all right, our Indonesian partners and so forth, to help you in your business modeling, IP strategy, IP management, technology planning, business advisory, and even when you go for pitching, we will be helping you to revamp it. We have been helping our startups to review their business model every 3 months to see whether they are pivoting fast enough to adapt to the product market fit and so forth. And of course, we also be helping them to expand market. So from Indonesia, you may be looking into other markets like Singapore, like Malaysia, or even going to Japan. I think these are all the IP Hatch cities, and we are very happy to work with Kampu to bring this to you. And finally, and a very important point that all startups are looking to is fundraising for growth. All right. So basically, fundraising is very, very critical, and it is also a very important step that the startups need to prepare themselves well. And of course, last of all, advisory for exit. All right, we do have a whole suite of advisors working with us to help startups to go towards that. And if you are at that stage, that is fantastic. All right, there are many different sectors that we are sector agnostic. We are not just into fintech. We also have hardware. We are also looking at agri-tech. In fact, just to give you a little bit of news ahead, we will be having an incubator in Singapore together with multinational company on agriculture, and definitely we're happy to work in Indonesia together with Kamtu to bring you all this kind of availability. And we're also looking to wearables, security, smart home, semicon, or even IoT kind of business areas. So we are very much looking forward to innovative ideas that has scalability and as well as sustainability in their business model. So far we have over 40 startups invested in multiple different cities. The new icons that you see here are all the new countries we launched this year. All right, so we're very happy to be in Indonesia, and we all along have planned for Indonesia, and I think we are very glad to be here today speaking to you. And in different countries, we are working very closely with the governments, and that is also becoming part of our network. So if you guys have plans to move into any of these cities or countries, we are happy to link up to those necessary agencies for you so that you have a very legitimate and safe path to launch businesses there. All right, so startup criteria, usually how do we look? Product market fit is definitely one. Innovation, what kind of innovation you have, or any kind of addressable market strategy, your team, how good is your team, and what kind of traction you have commercially and technology. All these are basically, very typical VC criteria, but we also look at very early stage startups. So don't worry, even if you have a seed idea, you're welcome to join. You are at the later stage, welcome to join too. We are there to help you with advice. All right, even if you don't join us for the competition, you can always join us in our education program. And now, I'm very happy to announce to you the portfolios as a start on how you can actually pick some of these technologies for use in your company. And these patents will be transferred to your startup if you are accepted for the program. All right, we have these few categories of patent portfolio from Nokia and Panasonic. One is on the disaster alert technology. Just imagine, you can do a lot of good and also very much a very good business model if you are able to prompt people about disasters happening and what kind of measures and what kind of safety they should actually take on. Imaging technologies. We also have ship detection technologies for object recognition. Data. All right, data is a keyword nowadays. Everybody is into data. If you have data, some people even say, if you have data, you're kind of king. All right, because unique data will be very valuable and you can make a lot of new business on that. And finally, storage on security is very important. Data storage security is very critical, as you know that there are many unique data. Say, for example, in Indonesia, there's a lot of unique data in Indonesia that you want to have security, not relying on external cloud or whatever. These are technology that you can use. But if you can't find anything among the 5 portfolio here, don't worry, there's always portfolio X. All right, one of the reasons why we bring out portfolio X is that many startups always come to us say that, hey Jason, we need a base technology, and we really want something that you can offer to us from your IP bank, and this is why we have portfolio X. If you can't find it here, send in your application. We will help you to match the closest, and we see how we can help you, even explain to you how you can utilize them if you don't understand. All right, so what you need to take note, all right, scan this particular QR code and go and apply online. All right, this is definitely very exciting, and I wish that I'll see your application soon. And this is the process. Basically, just go to our website and then click, and then you will be able to sign up for the application. Straightforward. Okay, so with that, I think I have limited time. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I look forward to looking at your application soon. So thank you very much for your time. Sorry for the initial technical so-called glitches there, but I still managed to solve the problem.
All right, thank you so much also, Mr. Jason, for sharing with all of us here today. So for your information, IPH also supporting and will be part of the Kumpul X Accelerator program. So everyone, don't forget to save the date and the link of the IPH timeline to join the fantastic program. So before we close the session, I would like to remind you again that if you're interested in being part of our upcoming program, do sign up yourself and your startup in git.ly/join-kumpulx, or you can also see it in the running text down below. So we are finally reaching out the end of our event. I would like to say once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to Huawei for supporting our InConnect program today, and also our partners, Investree, Monk Hill Ventures, Super, Prasetia Dwidharma, Peace Future, BRI Ventures, DBS Bank, Shipper, and TMI. Stay tuned on our Instagram at kumpul_id to get the head up for more exciting program to leverage your business. So I'm Risa. I'm signing out. Thank you. I'll see you next time.